you're thinking, should I do this thing? So there's some action that you are trying to decide whether it'd be good or bad to do it. How do you decide? One is to think about who would be negatively or positively affected by the action. Your moral community is the set of people that you are regarding when you're thinking about whether or not some action would be moral, would be the right thing for you to do. So there's a theory called ethical egoism. And that theory says that you should do whatever is best for you. Even if something is really bad for your mom and your brother, or really bad for your dog or your boss, if it's really good for you, you should do it. You should do whatever is really good for you. So with you in mind, take care of yourself. Ask yourself, is this good for me? And if it is, then you should do it, says the ethical egoist. But you might have other people in mind when you're thinking about who is positively or negatively affected when you're trying to think about whether you should or should not do something. The theory that is often called ethical tribalist or sometimes familialist tells you that you should have your tribe, your family in mind when you're thinking about who is benefited or burdened by some action. So when you have your mom, your dad, your sibling, your spouse, when you have your family, your tribe in mind and you regard them and you say, well, that would be really bad for my family, so I won't do it, that means that you have your family in your moral community. That's extending the agents, the people that you are considering or regarding when you're trying to decide whether you should or shouldn't do something. But you might have an even more large, spacious moral community where you're not just thinking about you and how to act in such a way that you are benefited. You might do more than that. You might also think about your family, but you might do more than that. You might think about everyone who has your religion or is in your class system or is in your neighborhood or is in your line of profession. An ethnocentrist is someone who will regard people who are like themselves. So when you say like, okay, is this right for me to do? Am I and people like me going to be benefited? Then your moral community looks something like the anthrocentrists. But another theory, the anthropocentrist, will tell you that because you're a human being, you should have every other human being in mind. And if something is really bad for most human beings, you shouldn't do it, even if it would be good for you. So consider, regard your species, all human beings, when thinking about what to do. And that's a very big moral community. If you try to avoid things that are bad for human beings in general, then you are an anthropocentrist. Bigger than that. You might think, when you're trying to decide if some action is the right thing for you to do, you consider all living beings. Now, if you said all sentient beings, then you're not considering plants and trees and grass and the earth in your moral community. But you might say not just all sentient beings, not just all feeling things, but all beings, everything that's alive.